Alright guys, what's going on? Today I have a very special video planned. I'm going to be interviewing Charlie Morgan, who has built, scaled, and sold his agency, Northflow Consulting, past 7 figures. And after that interview we had, I definitely consider him as a friend, even though we've just met. We definitely share some views on a lot of things, and I know you guys will find this interview super insightful because Charlie is the type of person that has scaled his agency to the top 0.1% of agencies, and he currently makes around $10,000 a day. So I know you guys will love this interview. And by the way, sorry if I look a little bit dead in the interview. These days I'm operating on 4 hours of sleep between a new client that I have to onboard this week, the channel absolutely exploding, you guys sending me so many messages, and the Discord absolutely blowing the fuck up. And I get so many applications from you guys that I have to review, take seriously, and see if you're a right fit for the membership. So yeah, I've been extremely busy. I also had this guy retweet my video on Twitter, and that made me go even more viral. All that to say, I'm extremely busy. There's a lot of things on my plate right now, and you guys enjoy the video.
All right, so Charlie, you are a millionaire agency owner. You've built and sold an agency helping gym owners, and now you are helping other agencies do the same. And so having built an agency from nothing, having dropped out of college, just like me, to focus on your agency, I only have one question, and I know you are you have the best possible answer out of anyone here on YouTube. What are some of the most common traits you've observed among the top 1% of highly successful agency owners?
There's one. I think you can boil it down to one specific trait, because this trait feeds into every other trait that you could need to develop and manifest to become successful. So we've served about 350 agency owners, helping them build systems for client acquisition so that they're not struggling anymore. And the single most important trait that we observe across all of those people is pain tolerance. So what I mean by that is it's the ability to withstand discomfort and negative emotion, typically for the first 1 to 2 to 3 years of the business, and just basically not give up. Like, everyone says that they want it, and then you tell them to make cold calls, and then suddenly they don't. So I think that that's like the big thing, is its pain tolerance. I say a lot of the time to clients, like, people are like, I want to get to 10 grand a month. And then I'm like, well, how much outreach did you do yesterday? They're like, oh, I decided that I was going to build my website instead. And I think that the strongest measure of someone's genuine commitment to their agency is how much activity they actually put in to get clients. Because if we're all honest with ourselves, when you're starting, you haven't really got anything more important to do than acquire. And so I think that that's a good measure. And so what we observe with people when they come in is if they accept it's going to be hard, and if they know that it's going to be difficult, and they come in with that mindset, and they're willing to tolerate like 12 months of just basically pain. I don't mean physical or mental pain, being depressed or anxious, but I just mean getting up and doing shit you don't want to do. That's the only thing that matters. Because if you haven't got that, there are other traits that you need. But if you haven't got the pain tolerance thing, you won't tolerate enough to develop the traits. Because a person or an agency owner is forged through their work. So if you want to become a successful agency owner, or if you want a successful agency, you have to become he who can. And the only vehicle you have for that personal transformation is the company itself. And so if you're not working on the company, you're not really working on yourself. And I think self-improvement, for a lot of the people aren't going to agree with this, but I think self-improvement to a strong degree is bullshit. It's like, if you want to work on yourself, work on the thing that is most conducive to you becoming someone that is successful. And that's just pain tolerance. Like, the more you can put up with, the more you get. So when I look at people who are successful, what I like to just see is like a mountain of pain. That's kind of how I describe it. But I'd say that's the main thing, man. I think that one of the second most important traits alongside emotional management, alongside pain tolerance, is emotional management. So I'd say that it's the ability to recognize and prevent yourself from making decisions and taking actions in accordance with emotions that don't resemble an accurate statement of reality. So that's a long way of basically saying don't act when you're emotional. And I think the reason that people struggle so much with client acquisition is because it's so closely tied to their current situation of pain and also their future situation of pleasure, i.e. becoming the person they want to be or being free essentially. And I think if you can't manage your emotions properly when doing outreach or sales calls, you just basically fall to the ground. And people that accept the fact, it comes back to the pain thing, man. Because like people do, like they send like 10 cold emails and then they're like, oh, the cold emails thing doesn't work, I'm going to do something else. And like, that's just an emotion. And if you actually look at the word emotion, it literally says motion, which means to move, which means to act. In Latin, it's mover or something like that. And so people are basically just drawn from pillar to post by their emotions. And I think when you take that into a client acquisition scenario where you need to be rational, calculated, and scientific, as you know, with the cold calling stuff that you do, like you wouldn't change your entire cold calling script because one person told you it was the worst thing in the world. You'd let data decide that decision, and you wouldn't, even though you might be tempted to make changes, you'd calm yourself down and be like, right, there's the emotion. Let's not act in accordance with it because it's probably going to take us down the wrong route. But dude, people are just like emotional as hell, man. And there's a lot of stuff you can do to sort of tamper that down. I think a lot of the techniques that I teach clients to do, because this is the thing, is like everyone thinks that like acquiring clients is all about having the best copy and the best scripts. But like if you've got a weak pain tolerance and you can't manage your emotions, I can give you the best copy in the world, but it won't work because you'll just constantly make changes and you won't want to get up and do the work, if that makes sense. So the mindset's the main thing. But as I was saying, the emotional management thing, the way we look at it, my business partner and I, with our emotions, is meditation. So like it's not that you don't want to not have the emotions, it's that you want to recognize them when they manifest and not act on them. So I still get angry, I still get sad, I still get like up here and down here sometimes. It's not about not having it, it's about not acting when it's present. So that's rule number one of outreach and sales, is it's like when you're making decisions, are you making them because of an emotion or because of a logical business reason? And if the answer is the latter, you'll be fine. If the answer is the former, you won't be fine because emotions cloud judgment. And then it's just people taking care of their health, man. Like people who drink a lot and eat sugar all the time and drink like loads of coffee and shit. It's like just completely fucks your mind. Just sends you off on like a complete negative trajectory, and just I don't know how you can manage any systems when you're emotional. So I'd say that like pain tolerance and emotional management are two. And focus would be the third. Most people can't even, like you even said it before we started this, like most people can't even watch like a 10-minute video. It's like if you're watching this now and you struggle with your attention span and you can't concentrate on something without getting distracted, how the hell are you going to build a company? Like what I like to do is to put things like that into perspective. Like look at like micro activities that you struggle with and then contrast that with your goal. And then ask yourself, if I can't even do that, how am I going to build a business? It's like people who say they're disciplined, but then it comes to like 10:30 p.m. they're supposed to go to bed and they just keep scrolling through fucking TikTok. So I don't know if I'm allowed to say.
Yeah, and I think focus is an interesting one because like on YouTube I saw this. There's a video of this interviewer asking both Bill Gates and Warren Buffett, like what's the one thing you would owe your success to? And both at the same time they answer focus.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think focus is a big one, and it's definitely something that's lacking, especially right now.
It's having the discipline just to do one thing, like not only in the macro, in the micro. So it's like I see focus as a long-term thing in terms of having one business for 10 years, but I also see it in the day as doing one thing in the hour, if that makes sense. And I see like I've got friends. So we started Imperium Agency 2 years ago now. We built it to about 200, 300 grand a month. We're going to get it to 8 figures. And like other people, friends of mine, started different businesses at the same time. And over the last 2 years, they've sort of chopped and changed between different businesses and niches and services. And like in the short term, it helped them make more money because they were just like shiny object syndrome and grass is greener here and I'm going to change there and make this money. But now that time has started to elapse, that focus is really paying dividends for us. So I think this is like common with people who niche hop at the first sign of trouble. You know, they like get into a niche and then 5 months in, they're like, oh, the niche is saturated. Oh, I'm going to change. What does that demonstrate? A lack of pain tolerance, a lack of emotional control, and a lack of focus. The three things we know you need. So I think that those are the key things, man. Like if you haven't got those, you might as well not give up because you can develop them. But if you're working on anything that isn't developing those things and then learning them and building them through client acquisition, there's not much point in doing anything. That's how I see it.
I think it definitely takes a different breed of person to build an agency and to build a successful one. And most people just don't realize that.
One of the things that I've observed, and when I say this to clients, it really resonates with them, so it might do here as well. It's like what becomes hard to digest for people is that they are who they are right now. So you have your current sense of self, your current identity, and the problem is that you, in your current state, are not capable of accomplishing your goals. And that's like, when I say that to people, they jump to this conclusion where they're like, no, but I can. What are you saying? But it's like, but you can't. And what I mean by that is that if you could, you would have already. And people then get discouraged. But then what I can do is you can caveat that by saying, what you can do is become the person who is capable of achieving the goal, if that makes sense. So if you're looking at yourself now and you think, well, I haven't got a good pain tolerance, my emotional control is in the bin, and I can't sit and watch this video for 10 minutes, let alone a movie in the cinema, like I can't do it. If you don't have those three things, you won't be able to succeed. But that doesn't mean you can't develop them and become someone who has them, if that makes sense. And like I said, you use your work as a vehicle to accomplish that. And I think that you're doing that really well, mate, with your YouTube channel at the moment. I think the way that obviously you use cold calling to get a lot of your clients. That's how I started as well. And like, it's a pretty good test for someone to see how committed they truly are.
Yeah. And yeah, when I started cold calling, I was extremely nervous. But then after I'd say around 20, 30 cold calls, it was gone, It was just like robot mode, just zoning in on executing. And yeah.
A lot of the emotions that you feel relevant to client attraction are arbitrary. It means you make them up. The fear that you have for cold calling feels real, but it's like, if you actually look at it, like, what are you afraid of? Because if you break down cold calling, for example, all it is a voice on a phone. Or take a cold email, for example. People are terrified of saying cold email sometimes, or they are inconsistent with their output because they're afraid for whatever reason. It's like, all cold email really is typing things on your keyboard and clicking send. And you then, if you feel all this massive fear about that, and you think, well, why am I type on a keyboard all the time and I click send. Or if you're afraid of cold calling, it's like, well, I talk to people on the phone and I don't get scared about that. So it's kind of like, what you have to recognize is that the fear that you're feeling isn't real. It's just conjured up by your current sense of self that doesn't want you to grow, because if you grow, the current person you are technically has to die. And so you can't step into the shoes of he who can without stepping out of the shoes of who you are. And so who you are right now puts all of this emotional pressure and fear in the way to prevent you from growing, because it has this survival instinct. And I talked about that in a video on my channel called Trial by Fire, which was received quite well. But I think that, dude, that's the thing. Like, you did what, like 20 calls, you said, and it went away?
Yeah.
I bet you, like, after that you realize, like, what were you afraid of in the first place?
I don't know. I mean, I'm just a shy I'm introverted to start with, so calling, like I've never done it before, and then after 20 calls, I mean, it just became easier. And then if I would do it right now, I could just do it super easily, because I know that also with my script right now, that just works. I know that I don't get people hanging up on me, and yeah, it's a very irrational fear, like you said. It's something that's you can't logically explain,
Or your script video as well. Good script.
Yeah.
No, it's good, man. But I think, it's important. And like, why did you keep going? Like, you got to like call 10 and you were probably like shaking. Like, why did you? What kept you going through those calls?
Honestly, I think once you really embarrass yourself, once you get people hanging up on you, you really just don't care anymore. That's how it happened for me. I stopped caring.
I think that's quite a cool thing to do, actually. It's like, expose yourself to the consequences of your fear, and then realize that there's nothing to really be afraid of at all. And then you're kind of like, how do you overcome a fear? You just face it, I suppose.
Yeah. And even now that video has been blowing up, some people have been sharing it on Twitter, saying this guy's going somewhere and stuff like that. And then the other people have been saying in the comments, like, yeah, you're your tone is a little bit off. You could improve this, which I agree. But then like no one else is really actually doing it. So I don't know why.
Always, people will criticize stuff regardless of what you do or how you do it or when you do it. It's like it's just human nature for people to nitpick at things. And like, I mean, I've been doing YouTube now for like a year and a half, and like you get the odd negative comment, but after a while, it's kind of like with the cold calling thing, it just doesn't phase you anymore because you just expect it. And it's like when shit happens that you're not expecting, that's when it starts to become an issue for your mindset. So if you just see it coming, if you know going into cold calling that people are going to hang up on you, swear at you, and reject you, and you know that, and you rationalize it, and then you ask yourself, well, what's the worst thing that happens if that happens? Then it's really easy to overcome, man. So yeah, but I think that's it, man. Those are the traits. Those
Yeah.
are the three things. Like, there's loads of them, man. But I think like if you get those three things right, it puts you in really good stead to acquire clients and keep them. And really, that's all an agency is. If you think about it, it's just acquisition and retention. If you get those things right, then you'll win. And the only things you need to get those right is pain tolerance, i.e., making sure that you can actually do the work even when you don't want to. Emotional management, which means not making stupid decisions to fuck up the whole thing. And obviously the last one, which is just staying focused on the thing that you're working on. But other than that, man, like you can boil it down to those three things. I don't think people need to look much further than that for mindset. You can go further, but I think those are the main things.
Yeah. Totally. Well, it was great having you. You really spit
Dude,
out
like
the facts in this one.
I saw you like blowing up, man, and I was like, I need to get on this guy and see what's going on because a lot of people start SMMA channels. I don't know how many people start them these days, like quite a lot, as I'm sure you're aware. But it's very rare for someone just to suddenly blow up like you have. And I think you're doing some bloody sick work. So, mate, do you mind if I plug my channel?
Sure, sure, go ahead.
Yeah, man. So anyone watching, if you're curious what we do, you can just click the first. Well, I'm assuming you'll link the channel in the
Yeah,
description. So just
in the
click the link in the
description.
description and check some of the stuff out that we do. We only really focus on client acquisition, whereas obviously Thomas's bag is more service delivery, but he's also got some sick appointment booking videos. But if you found this video helpful, you might find the other ones helpful. But Thomas, mate, I really bloody enjoyed this, and I'd absolutely love to do it again soon. So anyone watching, if you want us to do another collab, maybe drop it in the comments, and we can arrange it again.
All right, man. Peace out.
Peace, man. Cheers.